What's going on, regulars? Welcome back on another Thursday. It's Katie.
And your boy Bobby. What's going on, Caitlin?
I really don't have a lot to share this week. I've
Yeah.
been super boring lately.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier, and I was like, "Yeah, what do you want to talk about in the intro today?" And she was like, honestly, like I'm boring. I'm a boring person." So I was like, "I'm not gonna say anything." I was like, "Okay, fair enough."
I've been trying to realign my goals and my health and wellness. Honestly, this sounds so lame, but bars are opening up till 1/2 a.m. next week. So I bartended inside, and I've been bartending until midnight for almost a year now. So I've started working out, like not for my summer bod, to try and get my energy levels back up to bartend till 2 a.m.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're gonna struggle. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
This week's intro, I'm actually just gonna pass it right over to Bobby because I think we have some important information that we'd like to share with you guys. So Bobby, take it away.
Thank you, Caitlin. As most of you know, if you've listened to episodes, I believe it's 9 and 10. I had a really good friend of mine, Scott, on the show, and this past weekend while I was down in Florida visiting Scott, actually, Scott suffered from a pretty tragic accident, and he has a pretty serious condition right now with his, with the hitting his head, and it wasn't looking good. He's doing great now, but he needs some help, and unfortunately, these circumstances came up and everybody's been rallying together. There is a GoFundMe page that is to help Scott with his medical bills. He's currently in the trauma unit down in Florida. He's doing, like I said, he's doing great. He's going to be fine, but he's got a long road ahead of him. And we just need, Scott loves everybody. If you guys don't know Scott, go listen to those episodes that he's on. It's impossible not to like him. I mean, Caitlin, you've met Scott.
And he's super fucking hot. I'm just going to say it. Like, he's a daddy for sure. So
Yeah.
if anything, like, just
help a daddy out.
help a daddy out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, he's really sweet.
He's
a nice boy.
He's just such a good, he cares more about other people than he cares about himself. And like him giving all of that up for his entire life, almost 30 years, it's time for us to step up to the plate and help him, for once. So there's a GoFundMe page. We'll link it in the description and everything else. It's on my personal page as well, too.
The link's actually in our Instagram bio as well. If you go to @ARegularPodcast on Instagram, we have a link to our link tree, which you can listen to the podcast there, but also the link to the GoFundMe is right on top there as well.
Yeah, so please, even if it's $1, go donate, or even if, I think you can even just write a comment in there, so just go, do something, it helps a lot.
Or just say a prayer if that's all you can do too, or send some good thoughts, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
Scott's been really supportive of both of us. I haven't known him that long, and I feel like I know him really well, and I have only spoken to him like twice maybe.
Yeah,
so.
We went to the tavern once and just had some, actually he went to the tavern by himself while I was at work. He was like, he calls the tavern home base, by the way.
That's the bar that I work at, by the way, guys.
Yes. So he calls tavern home base. And I remember when I was at work the one day that he was up visiting, he was like, I'm just heading to home base. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm at the tavern. I'm getting buffalo chicken dip. I'll see you after work. And I was just like, oh, okay, like whatever.
Always plug Lansdale Tavern's buffalo chicken dip. It rules.
Absolutely. But yeah, so guys, please, anything you can do to help, that would be absolutely killer.
All right. So we have a guest with us this week, and I have to say I love that we talk about topics that are a little bit taboo and sometimes struggles. So I hate saying like I'm so excited to talk about this week, but I am, because I think again it's something that we really, our generation, especially at this age, under 30, really doesn't get into a whole lot.
Yeah, because a lot of people find it embarrassing, and there's so many other adjectives that you would describe this. I mean, we'll leave that to her to her to describe it. But this week we have a guest on. Her name is Brittany. I've known Brittany since 7th grade, I believe. So but I haven't seen her probably since high school. So it's really cool that she reached out and said, hey, if you ever need someone to talk about this. I was like, actually, that was on our list of things that we wanted to talk about. And then one thing led to another, and we have Brittany here. So I would like to welcome Brittany. How are you doing, sweetheart?
Hi, everyone. How are you?
I've never had a bad day in my life.
I'm actually not hungover on a morning when I didn't have to work today, so that's huge for me.
Good.
I know. But yeah, so Brittany, before we get into everything, we're going to learn a little bit about you, but we do want to just say that we're here to talk about divorce today.
Yep,
So
we are.
thank you for opening up about that. But before we get into it, tell us about yourself a little bit.
All right. So I just turned 30 in January. I'm a mom. I have a 5-year-old, a little girl. I work in human resources. And like Bobby said, we went to North Penn together. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am divorced, which is what the topic of our
Shocker.
conversation will be. So we're pretty much kind of gearing this toward being divorced before the age of 30,
Awesome.
which is not typically talked about. It's one of those sour topics I feel like no one really wants to talk about. It's, embarrassing, and that we're kind of here to touch light on.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. So I guess Bobby and I really don't know a whole lot about your story. I told you before we started recording, I did stalk you a little bit on Facebook, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and saw that you were no longer married. So
Mhm.
I guess let's just get into it. How old were you when you got married?
So I will start with, so we first actually started dating. I was in 2010. I was 19. He
Oh
was
my gosh,
he was
wow.
25. So any 19-year-old dating somebody who's 25, it's like, whoa, this is great, right? That's what you think anyway.
He could buy you booze. That's what
Yeah.
I always think of right away.
Yes, I have a plug now.
So that's kind of where it started. And then I will say by the time I was 21, I was engaged.
Oh, wow.
So
So
that was,
You dated him through college then?
so I was, yes.
Okay.
I went to Monco, and then I chose, because I was dating him, I did choose to not go away to college. I went to Monco, and then I went to Penn State Abington. So I just commuted.
Okay.
So that was kind of because I was with him, that's where my life was. So that's what I chose. But yeah, by the time I was 21, we were engaged. And then by the time I was 23, we were married.
Wow.
Bing, bang, boom. One thing to another.
I can't. I'm just thinking of where I was when I was 23. I was like still a club rat, like living in Philly with like no furniture in my apartment. We had like a shag rug, and that was it.
Dude, I'm trying to think of like where I was at 23. I can't remember because I was probably drunk the whole time. So I was like, yeah, I was just drinking and boozing, having a good time.
Oh,
I was
so-
actually still in college. I graduated. I walked on my 24th birthday.
So
Well-
I was getting drunk in Philly on a shag rug. Bobby was graduating college. You were a wife.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Crazy. But I will say I was never the party type, even throughout high school. That just wasn't me. I was always more of a homebody.
Mhm.
And I always wanted to get married and have a family. That's just, what I always strived for. So that was probably, I could say, what I wanted in life.
You're also
was to be a
I
wife.
remember being you very family oriented, like
Yes.
even younger, because you had a couple like parties, quote unquote, like just
I
people
did.
coming over, yeah,
Uh-huh.
whatever. And I went to a couple because she actually, I don't know if you know this, Caitlin, she lives like right behind my parents' house.
I think I know that. Okay, this is a story I just remembered as we're talking about this. I think I smoked my first cigarette with you
Possibly.
at a mutual friend's house. I remember you being like, "Don't inhale it all the way."
Oh,
I'm like,
gosh.
so is it like weed or is it? I mean, not that I've done that either. Just like
Yeah,
hypothetically speaking,
from what I've heard, but yeah,
she's
like
we're not. She's like, I'm not a party girl, but like we've partied with you.
Yeah. What I've seen from your family from the outside looking in. Now I'm sure every family's got their struggles, but from the outside looking in, like you have that white picket fence family. I mean, you have beautiful house, like beautiful family,
She's
beautiful
beautiful,
sister.
yeah.
Aw,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, like it's set up for you. But honestly, this is what we're here to talk about in the sense that like although you have all this beautiful settings,
Exterior.
exterior, that you had to go through something
Mhm.
pretty hard. So jumping from 19 years old to married at 23, like what was that?
To me it wasn't difficult, I will say, because that's what I wanted. Personally, I like being with somebody.
Hmm.
Me too.
I
feel
like
that.
I like that one-on-one. I don't want to jump around to different people. That's just me. I like that one person and I like to be committed. So I feel like that's where I was at. So being married to me was what I was striving for.
Okay, so how far into your marriage you have a child together, correct?
Mhm, correct.
So how old were you when you had your daughter?
I was 25.
Okay, and at that point, what were things like in your marriage? Were you starting to see it fall apart? Like, where were you at that point?
So let's backtrack just a tad bit here real quick. So basically we were married at 23, and I can say, so when we were first married, within 3 months of our marriage, we were getting life insurance. Because that's what people should do. If you don't have life insurance as a married couple, I suggest you get it. If something happens to your spouse, you should
You
definitely
want to be
have it.
taken care of.
Correct,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So that was one of our first goals. We had a house together. So we were getting life insurance, and we had this woman who's a nurse came to our house to do all of the blood work and whatnot that was needed for the life insurance. And this woman was kind of caught me off guard, and she literally kept asking questions about my husband. And I was like, this is interesting. And my husband was acting really weird when this woman was there. And I was like, this is so odd. So he left for work then, and she's like, oh, like, how long have you been married? Like, where does he work? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is weird. So she finally finished up and she left. So later that day, she texted me. And this is just a nurse coming from one of those, I don't know if it was LabCorp or something. She texted me, which is so unprofessional. But she texted me that she knew who my husband was and that he was on a dating website. And she had connected with him and she met up with him. And so this is just 3 months into being married.
Oh my God.
After my parents just paid for our expensive wedding.
I have chills all over my whole body. Oh my God.
So this is literally, and the divorce was not because of any kind of infidelity, I will say. I was willing to stick through those things.
Which is what I hear a lot.
And I think they were more emotional as opposed to physical. Truthfully, I don't know till today. I don't think he physically did anything from what I've gathered. I think it was more of the emotional, more of the attention through, your phone.
Which is funny because we have actually talked about that on other episodes where, which is worse? Is it physical or emotional? Because for me, like what I said on those other episodes, I'd rather, if you're going to cheat or whatever, just go bang another dude. Like, honestly, because then it's like, you know what? The excuse there of like, oh, well, I just got drunk and made a mistake. Like, okay, or like whatever. But like the emotional attachment to me is like, oh, wow, you really just don't like me.
Yeah, or
you
like
know what I
I'm
mean?
not giving you something that
It's
you need.
It's like a shot right to my ego, you know?
Yeah.
So how did you respond to that?
So basically, after she texted me saying she knows him, she actually even sent me his profile from Plenty of Fish. It was not his picture. It was not his name. But all the information inside of it was 100% him. And I knew that when she sent it to me.
So he was catfishing people then?
Pretty much.
There's so much to unpack here. Wow. Wow. Also, girl power. Good for her. I mean, like, shout out to her for reaching out to you.
Correct. And initially, I will say then, of course, I was at work. And I called my husband and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this woman just sent me this profile and I sent it to him. I said, the lady who was here, the nurse, I said, she texted me that you're talking to her, that you met up with her. So I was like so lost. And I will say my ex-husband is completely a manipulator. He is a pathological liar. He's very good at it. I wish I could be half as good as he was at telling a lie.
Oh, man.
So you believed whatever he said,
course,
I'm guessing.
Absolutely. He was very good at it. And I couldn't tell you exactly what he said to make me believe it. But he was very good at lying. And so he lied right to my face.
Oh, and love is so blind. I feel like when you're in love with someone, they could tell you that this guy is great. And by the end of the conversation, if you're that in it, you're like, okay, I can see how you think that.
And especially too, like the whole purpose of this topic is at a young age. You're also young and dumb. Like,
Correct.
I'm sorry
Absolutely.
when you're, I'm sorry anyone, we've said it, I think I've said it before, anyone like under the age of like 26, I struggle to say that you're an intelligent person because it's hard. I'm still not intelligent, but
Not
it's
intelligent, but I think you're just inexperienced.
Yeah.
You feel like I know what I'm talking about and I believe what I'm saying, and then you look at it years later, you're like, whoa, I was an idiot.
You're like, whoa, that was really dumb of me. Like, I have that time hop app, and I like go back and I'm
God,
like,
it's so cringy.
I'm like, Jesus, you said that, you dumbass. Like, what is wrong with you?
Oh.
But no, yeah. So like being young, and I mean, not only is he a master manipulator, but you're young and dumb. You're
And you're
easily
in love.
manipulated.
And I'm in love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just married, like 3 months into a marriage. And you're like, this can't be happening. Like, really?
So was this the first of many occurrences?
This was the first.
Okay.
So basically that happened. And then I literally, at that point, basically let it go. I believed him, like I said.
Ugh.
So we moved on. We continued with the marriage as anybody would. I mean, I wasn't going to go tell my parents, 3 months into my marriage, this is what happened. Like,
Did
I
you
was
confide in
embarrassed.
anybody at all?
I think I actually did kind of tell them, but I told them the story that he gave me, which was full of shit, basically.
Ugh.
But did you
Um,
tell any like your girlfriends or anything like, hey, this
I did
like,
not. I was embarrassed.
whew,
Well, and
I
two,
wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut. I'd be like, Wagner, help. You
I
know
told
what I
my
mean?
coworkers, they weren't, necessarily your best friends, but they were
Work friends are different.
work friends are different,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I told them everything.
and I can say from just being in a bad relationship in the past, it's tough with your friends and especially your family. It's like you need support. You don't want to go through this alone, but everything that you tell people, they're going to keep it in their back pocket and you want them to like who you're with. If you guys
Correct.
decide that you're going to move past it and move forward, like that's easier for you because you love this person. They don't love this person.
Mhm.
So it's hard for them
To forget.
yeah, and it's a hard line to teeter.
Yeah. And basically the bullshit story that he gave me was that this was a woman who he knew from the past, and she was threatening him. And this is the story he gave me. So he had to make this fake profile to go on and to try and get her back and to tell her to leave him alone. And it was a BS story. That was from what I remember anyway.
Isn't it funny how like when you go back to think about it, you're like, that doesn't even make any sense. How
Yes.
did I believe that?
But I
You know
can
what
but
mean?
I can
But when you're in the moment,
yeah.
Yeah.
everything I've done that before. Dude, too many stories about how I'm like, how the hell did I get away with saying that? It doesn't make any sense. But then you're just like, okay, it works. So like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mhm.
insane. So what happened after that? So you caught him. He lied to you. What was the
Mhm.
next step?
We moved on after that, I will say. And I will say one thing about our relationship. We were great partners, per se, aside from what has happened after this. We were financially stable. We loved to do the same things. Like there were so many positives that I felt like I was willing to move on. I was willing to say, you know what, let's put it aside. Let's continue our life. And you would never typically think that our road would have led where it went, which I'll tell you now. So basically, after that incident, we ended up being pregnant then, and I did wait a year. I tried having the typical white fence scenario where you date and then you get married and then you wait a year and then you have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So you think everything's going in the right direction. So I get pregnant, and I got pregnant quickly, which was great. There was no problems there. And I was pregnant with my daughter. I want to say I was 5 months pregnant. And that was when the next incident happened.
Oh, fuck. I knew it was coming. I knew as soon
I
as you
think
started going down that road, I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I think I'm gonna have chills, but like bad chills throughout this whole episode. So carry on.
Yes. So in the whole midst of this, I wouldn't say at this point he was a raging alcoholic. Not at all. He liked to drink. Okay. He would drink every day in this whole story of things, even when we were engaged.
Another plot twist.
Yes.
Okay.
So I forgot to mention it. So he did like to drink. Okay. I'm not a drinker. So to me, but it was what it was, whatever. And he liked vodka, just per se. That was his choice of drink. And so when I was pregnant, he basically got drunk one night, which he would on pretty much every night. And he passed out on the couch downstairs. And I went downstairs probably at like 1 a.m. and went through his phone. I'll be honest.
Oh.
So what prompted you to go through his phone? Can I ask?
I think from the first incidents, the trust was pretty much lost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
So-
felt like I always kind of
What is the
was on
time
the
frame?
edge.
Yeah, what is the time frame from 3 months to
Mhm.
the next time and you got over that to you picking up his phone? What
about
was
a year.
About a year. Okay.
Yeah, because I was 23 when we were married and 3 months in, and then I was pregnant at 24 with my daughter.
Okay. So all right, so about a year. Okay.
Mhm.
So you go through his phone.
I do. Unfortunately, I think at that point in a relationship, you do lose a lot of trust when somebody does that to you.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted it to be that way. That's not how any relationship should be.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned into that quickly.
Okay.
So what did you find?
So
I'm nervous actually. Hold on, let me sit back.
So when I went through his phone, I literally unlocked it and opened it, and right there was a dating website again. And the ad it was an ad. It was on Plenty of Fish. This was always his choice. And the ad was that he was looking for a fling, and he was leaving the state by February, which is when my daughter was due.
Oh my god.
That is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So did he actually plan to leave us there? Or that was
No,
like a
that was
metaphor for
that
like the baby?
it was his story. It was his
Oh
storyline that
my
he was going
God.
with because he knew my daughter was due in
Because you
February.
know what it was. You know what it is. Once the baby was born, he was either
Gonna
going
maybe
to
change?
change, quote unquote, or for whatever he finds in the meantime, it's an easy out. It's
Mm-hmm.
an easy like, okay, well, I'm disappearing, even though he's still around. It's easy to tell. Like, say that you and I were like, I'm him, and I met Caitlin off of Plenty of Fish. I can tell Caitlin, oh, well, I'm leaving in February. So then when February rolls around, the precedent's been set that I'm gone,
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my
and then it's just
God.
easy to be like, see you later. You know
He
what I
was a
mean?
master manipulator.
Yep.
Honestly,
Wow.
I'll tip my cap to him. That's pretty genius. I think
I
he's an asshole.
I
Don't get me
agree.
wrong, but it's pretty genius.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Okay. So
most guys would just cheat, and then just figure it out later. You know what I mean? Most guys would just do what they do and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
fly by the seat of their pants. You know what I mean? But no, that was fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here I am, like I think it was 5 or 6 months pregnant when
Oh
I
my
found this.
God.
Oh, it was awful.
Did you beat the shit out of him? Like, what'd
Well,
you do?
he's a drunk also. So this is the other part of it. Like, yes, when I will come up freaking out, but he was drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was many times I wanted to beat the shit out of him.
But you're pregnant
But-
too, so you want to
yeah,
like, be
correct.
careful. Oh
Mhm.
wow. So what happens next?
So at that point, we did obviously move. Unfortunately, things started to be rocky there. I will say that was when things really started to be uneasy. At that point I was pregnant. I had to continue moving forward, and that's what I was doing. I could not tell you what his bullshit story was at that time because I don't remember.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we continued to move on. The drinking was always still a problem at that point. But I will say my daughter was born in February of 2016. And that was when, things for him in the drinking aspect got way worse. So she was born and he was there and everything was great.
That was actually going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Did he make it?
He did. He
Okay.
did. He was there. I will say my daughter, she was born at 4 pounds. I was
Oh.
full term. She was just really tiny. She stopped growing inside of me. So that kind of happened. So it was a really hard time after I had her. And I took her home to the hospital. And the day after, I think it was, I had to bring her back to the hospital because her body temperature went too low. So I had to bring her back. And he was nowhere to be found the day after
Oof.
that we
Great.
came home. Yes. So he was MIA. I would call him, at work, and it's snowing. So I had to call my mom
Ugh.
to bring my daughter back to the hospital because her body temperature was 93.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's really
Yes, it's very low. And it's
okay.
because she was
98.6 is the normal.
Even
right?
being under like 96 is or 90 below 97 is
very
pretty
very
low.
bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And that's just due to her being small. She was having a hard time regulating her temperature. So I had to bring her back. And he was MIA. He was at work, which to me, I think going to work was where he would drink, to be honest.
So the local bar essentially, or friend's house or something like that.
Well, he worked for his brother.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I think his brother is as much of a drinker as he is or used to be.
So he's an enabler.
Correct.
In some fashion.
100%.
Yeah.
And so they ran a business together. And so they would go to the business. I'm not going to say what it is. And he would drink. I mean, he would come home drunk several times. I mean,
Oof.
like, that was normal.
Ugh.
And I honestly think I stopped realizing how often it was happening because it was just normal.
Ugh, that's such a shame.
So
So did he ever turn up when you were back in the hospital with your daughter?
you know what he did? That night he came back and we were in the pediatric unit and he showed up drunk as could be.
Were
And
you
here-
mortified? Like, how did you handle that?
Absolutely.
Did the nurses and stuff know?
I almost called the nurses. Like, it was bad. I
Like,
literally.
Did they know?
They did not know. He didn't really talk to them.
Okay.
But I remember here I am, a new mom. Your hormones are all over the place. Trying to figure out breastfeeding, which was a joke at that point, out the window because I was way too stressed.
Mhm.
And let alone she's 4 pounds. And here he comes. And I actually never forget this moment. He literally walks into the room and I could tell he was drunk.
Mhm.
I knew him more than he knew himself, I feel like. And he came in and he like just was staring at her and staring over her and talking about her. And I wanted to barf.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh.
And then sure enough, he goes, sits in the chair and passed out. snoring.
Oh my god, this guy.
I literally wanted so bad to call the nurses and be like, "You need to have him leave."
So where did you go from? Was that the moment that you knew it was over? Like,
No, that was not the moment.
Wait,
So,
hold on. There's more?
absolutely, oh, a ton more.
oh,
Jeez, Brittany.
So anyway, so we go home then. We live our life. The alcohol's still a problem. He would try and be a nice dad, and he'd try and let me sleep in the morning and take the baby downstairs, and which was great. Half the time I would go down there and he would be drunk,
in the
watching,
morning?
watching. Oh yes, watching the baby.
From the night before or
No, in the morning drinking.
Oh man.
And did you just overlook this? Did you ever talk to him about this? Like, what was?
So we have talked about it. I will say there was a huge time frame during our marriage and when we had my daughter. I felt like I was living a terrible life and I was living my life around him. And anybody who, is with an addict, they would understand. When
Mhm.
you're dating or married to an addict, your life revolves around them, which is extremely difficult. I would literally mark the alcohol bottles. I would try and like hide them. So like it was awful. I wanted nothing more for him to be sober.
And did your family know about this?
They did.
Okay, and friends too, or?
Some of my friends did, yes. I knew at one point my dad, when I had my daughter, my dad tried like telling him like let's go to rehab, like, and he wouldn't. He kept telling me that it was completely unfair of me to ask him to pick alcohol over us.
So did he think that he had a problem, or
He did not think it a problem.
I
He
would
would
say-
tell me no.
Yeah, I would say most addicts are going to tell you, like, nah, I'm good. I'm fine.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
I can't speak because I'm not an addict, but being friends with people who struggle with drugs and alcohol, 99% of the time, they're like, I'm fine. I can stop. How many times I can stop drinking whenever I want? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If I wanted to, you know what I mean? But I don't want to. So, and you're like, all right, dude, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man.
And I feel like slowly our life started to revolve around it.
So you and your daughter and him.
Yeah, I felt
basically.
like once my daughter was born, he had a tough childhood, I will say. But I felt like once she was born, I don't know if it brought out something from his childhood, but he like completely flipped a 180, even worse when she was born.
So you were essentially doing it on your own.
Absolutely. I felt like I was. He was always at work.
AKA drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there'd be times where he would not come home at night by 9 o'clock or so. And I'd call him and I worry, like, did he get into an accident? Like all these things run through your head. The anxiety is like through the roof.
Yeah, because
of
you
it.
know he's blasted wherever
Correct.
he's at.
I know that.
Yeah, in the back of your mind. Now, let me ask, were you working at this time? Like, were you still holding down a job?
Absolutely.
So you were basically a single mother, holding down a job, dealing with an alcoholic
Mhm.
husband,
Maintaining a home,
Maintaining
being
a-
a mother.
yeah, being a mom.
Absolutely.
Okay, hats off to you, first of all. Great. That's very
Yeah,
impressive. It's
the-
horrible that you had to do that,
Yeah.
but wow.
You did it, though.
I
You know what
did.
I mean?
Absolutely. I did it for my daughter.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. So,
So basically at that point after that, the alcohol got really bad and he started really drinking heavily. And I started to see it differently because now I'm a mom and I have a daughter.
Mhm.
So now I'm like, okay, well, my life choices are pretty much going to affect her. And I'm like, me being with him, I wouldn't want this for her.
Mhm.
So I tried. We went to counseling. It wasn't like I just gave up and threw in the towel. Absolutely not. We went to counseling together. The counselor even told him, it's the alcohol. Like, that's the problem of your relationship. And you need to cut it out. And he's like, can you? And he's like, well, it's not a problem. I mean, he did not see it as a problem whatsoever.
So let me backtrack just a bit. What was that conversation like approaching your then husband at that time, telling him that we need to go to counseling, like couples counseling?
It was rough,
How did that play out? That scenario
were
play
you
out?
personally in counseling at that point?
I was not
Okay.
on my own. So that was hard. I feel like a lot of men have egos about it, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't need that. Someone doesn't need to tell me how to live my life. Someone doesn't need to give me their advice."
I'm over here like, yeah, she's right.
Well, I've asked my last relationship. I asked for counseling, and I was shut down
Yeah,
many times.
it's an ego
So,
thing.
Yeah.
And so
there's also a stigma around it being like, quote, that young
Mhm.
in couples counseling. You think like, oh, for this young doing it, like, people don't do this till their 40s. Like, what are we even doing right now?
And then on top of that, like we've talked about before, which is actually something you and I need to discuss off air, is males in counseling too. Men don't, like you said, men don't want to be
Correct.
looked at as like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to somebody because we're supposed to be these macho men who can drink and still take care of the family and all this other stuff. That's this whole social stigma and whatnot. So
But in reality, when I hear that a man's in counseling, I'm like, ooh, that's a husband right there. That's a fucking husband.
Well, that's because you're like, man, you're probably toxic. Let's go.
No, it's me. I think it's someone saying like, I realize that I have issues and I need to work through them, and I am comfortable enough with myself to say I can't do it by myself, which means that your emotional awareness is high, and I probably want to marry you.
There you go.
But I'll probably turn you down if you ask me on a date because I'm toxic as fuck. Anyway, back to you, Brittany.
Yeah, right. But so how did that conversation play out? Like, do you remember that first conversation? Like, hey, I think we need to do this.
I think I brought it up several times, and it was pretty much at the point I actually went to spend. I left with my daughter. That's what happened. I said, if you're not going to go to counseling with me, then this isn't going to work. And I did leave for a weekend with my daughter, went to my parents' house. And at that point, he knew he, was willing to try. So we went to counseling, and it didn't really get anywhere. After I think 2 times, he was like, we're never going back again. I don't like that guy. He's giving me all this bad advice. I don't understand why I'm the problem. Why aren't you the problem? And he's like, it's very one-sided. And I'm like, okay, well.
Well, when you're drunk all the time,
Correct.
Common denominator is you. You know what I mean? That's fucking wild.
Yeah, so I feel like I really did try. And then
you're 25 at this point, right?
I was at this point 26.
Which is so young to be handling all of this. Like, I'm just mind blown at how young you were handling this stuff.
Yeah, again, I think about where I was at 25. Where was I at 25? No, I would not want to be doing any of this. I mean, I would never want to do this even at 55. But...
I remember I was living with my boyfriend when I was 25, and we were breaking up and moving out of an apartment together. And I remember thinking, I'm so young. I was the first of my friends to live with a guy, and we're moving out. This is so embarrassing. Like, oh, I'm ripping apart my life. And here you are in counseling with a baby, married to an addict. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's
insane.
Yeah.
Now, I always keep going back. Like, do your friends know that you're going into counseling? Do your parents know? Did you ever confide in any of them?
My parents do a lot. My sister, I feel like I was always really close with my family.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say a couple of my girlfriends might have known. I honestly don't remember.
Why didn't you tell them?
I think it was one of those things where you try and hide it.
Because you're young. I mean, you just had this
it's
big wedding.
embarrassing.
You don't want to be like, hey, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for the presents. Thanks for your time. By the way, my life is in shambles.
Yeah.
My marriage is falling apart, and I have a baby.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm 26.
So
it's great.
When does it finally, like, what is the final downfall of all that?
So my final straw was, and I remember it till today, was my second Mother's Day, which was May of 2017. I remember this day like yesterday. He went out in the morning. He got up early with my daughter, trying to be a nice husband. That's what I thought anyway. Let me sleep in. He's like, oh, I'll go pick us up breakfast. I'm like, oh, great. So he goes to get his breakfast, and I heard him pull in the driveway because I heard the dog barking. And so I look out the window, and I see him sitting in the car downing a bottle of vodka.
Just straight vodka.
This is 8 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa.
So he stopped at the liquor store and picked
Hold on, wait.
up.
Is the liquor store even open?
So I
at 8 a.m.?
think he must have had it hidden in his car.
Had to have. I don't think
Because
it's. They don't open till I think
Correct.
11.
So I gathered from this he was hiding a lot of it that I didn't know about, because I was marking the bottles in the house, which is so unhealthy. And I look back on this, and I would never live a life like that ever again. But I didn't know how to fix it, and I was trying to fix him.
Right, and you thought you were doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've learned now you can't fix anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he's downing a bottle of vodka sitting in the driveway.
And is your daughter in the car with him?
No, she was with me. He just went to get breakfast.
Okay.
And at that point, I walk out there and dump the rest of the freaking bottle out, and I was livid. I'm like, it is Mother's Day, and this is how we're starting our day? So he comes in the house.
How did he react to that? Yeah.
So he comes in the house. I went to get a shower, and I went to get my daughter ready, and I come back downstairs, and in the midst of all of this, he found wine bottles, which he hasn't drinking wine in years at this point. His choice was vodka. So he found wine bottles that we had, and I come down, and he's belligerently passed out on the couch.
Mm.
So I call my sister, crying my eyes out. It's Mother's Day, and I can't even get myself together.
Your sister, who's also a mother, correct?
Correct. So she comes over, does my hair, gets me ready. I'm like, I couldn't do a single thing. And he's passed out on the couch. And then I found out, I went down in the basement. He opened the wine bottles. He was that desperate to get his fix that he opened these wine bottles. And he literally, somehow he broke them because we didn't even have a wine opener. I don't even remember how he did it. And he was passed out drunk, hidden the bottles in the basement so I wouldn't see it.
And this was all when you were in the shower?
Correct. And
Oh
this
my
is all at
God.
like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
And it's Mother's Day.
So what were you getting ready for? Did you guys have plans together?
Yes,
or?
we were going to my my aunt's for Mother's Day. We always do that. And so he was supposed to come. And at that point,
Like, did he not plan on driving there? Like, that's like my thing. Like,
I'm
I
like
have
getting
no
really
clue.
emotional. I'm
'Cause you would
literally
think, like-
crying right now.
you would think like Mother's Day, like I'm gonna drive my girl out there, like this
Right,
and the other
right?
thing. Like, dude, it's her goddamn day. She doesn't do anything besides sit there, be beautiful, and just do whatever she wants to do. And
I've never gotten this emotional. We've talked about some heavy shit, and I've never gotten this emotional during. I'm fully crying right now. Okay. I'm so sorry. That's awful.
Yeah.
So was that it? That was.
So what happened after that? That was my last straw this day. So what happened after that was actually I left him. He was passed out. I couldn't even wake him up. And I'll be honest
Probably
with you.
for the best though.
Correct. And I'll be honest with you. I got to my aunt's house and his brother calls me because he can't get a hold of him. And I answer the phone and I said, what's up? And he's like, well, why can't I get a hold of him? He's not answering his phone. I said, well, honestly, I said, you know what happened this morning? And I told him what happened. I said, I could honestly care less if he's dead right now. Like, that's truly
good for you,
how
girl.
I
Boom.
felt. Like, I said, you know what? I don't know. Maybe he's not breathing. I have no idea. I said, he, drank all of his alcohol and is passed out cold on the couch. I
And
said,
what was
I
his
have
brother's
no clue.
response?
He was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. And
Meanwhile, he's probably.
but
Drink-
meanwhile, correct. And
Yeah.
to me, I was always, his family knew of his problem.
Mhm.
No one ever helped. Like, it was like,
See, and that's where I like feel bad. Like, there's a sense of me that feels bad for the guy because it's like,
But I also feel bad for you too. Like no one had your back.
no, yeah, no,
I tried
you're the
helping him.
only one helping him. It's like, and you
Correct.
can't even get help from the people who
Correct.
are blood related to him. It's like, God damn,
and
man,
they
this
all
guy,
knew of it. Absolutely. It was awful.
God.
So can I ask, is he still drinking? Is he sober now?
So kind of the end of the story. He
Oh,
is,
okay,
he is,
okay.
he is sober.
Okay. So
Um,
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
skipping
no,
ahead.
yeah, no, he is sober. But
Okay.
I will say that a lot happened after that. So after that day, we had a vacation planned in in May, Mother's Day, I was done. And I feel like as a woman, when you check out of a relationship, you check out before you actually end it.
Oh, fully. Yes.
And I feel like it's what helped me get through it. It's checking out slowly, making sure it's the right timing. I had a daughter in the mix of this, so it was making sure everything was okay.
I think that's for everyone, though. You know what I mean? Because I've been in relationships too where I'm like, I'm checked out, but like, I need to position this correctly because although this dude sucks on practically every level, there's still a piece of you. It's not for him, it's for you. You're a good person. So you're trying to position it so you don't hurt that person even more, not for them, but for you, because you don't want to just be like, I'm done, see you later, even though you rightfully deserve to do that.
Mhm.
But you as a good person don't want to do that. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, where you're like, hold on, I have not only, have to end this marriage, but I have a kid. You have a house together,
Mhm.
I'm assuming. There is a lot more life insurance.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You have to figure all of this stuff out. Let's get my ducks in a row so then when I do bring this conversation up, it's clean, clear, concise, and we just get it over and done with.
So what did that conversation look like, or what were those arrangements?
So basically at that point, I brought up the D word, divorce, in a marriage many times, I will say, due to the drinking, and it never fazed him. I don't think he ever thought I would do it. I don't think he ever thought I was strong enough to do it.
Most don't, I would say.
So so it got to the point where I knew I had to stand on my own 2 feet for my daughter, and that was my drive. So at that point, I want to say it was June. We had a vacation planned in June. We were going to Mexico, and I will say I went, and I only went because I paid. We paid for this vacation.
So you guys went together.
We did, which was
With your
weird because
daughter?
no, she was at home. We were not together. It was very weird. But you know what? I'm at this point. He's like, well, I'll just bring my brother with me. I'm like, you know what? I want to go to this vacation. So I went. We were not like, it was weird.
Did you
but
guys
I
hang
went.
out?
Kind of just mutually, but he was always drunk every day. And I just kind of was like, I'm going to go enjoy the sun. I'm doing this
Good
for
for
myself.
you, dude. Good for you.
Self-care.
Which was really hard to do. And most people were like, why are you still going? And at this point, I did not file for divorce yet. But I like, you know what? This is my last. I'm going on vacation.
Were you
Like,
guys living together still at this point?
we were. So
Okay.
that gets a little messy. So in July is when I filed for divorce.
Did he know that you were going to?
He did know. I told him numerous times. He didn't believe me. Like I said, he didn't think I was strong enough to do it. I did have my family backing me, which is kind of what pushed me, which was very helpful. They were always in my corner. So at that point, I filed for divorce. I went to the lawyer. I sold my ring. That's how I paid for the retainer.
Good for you,
I was
girl.
gonna say, boom.
Did
good
not
for you.
give that back to him.
Normally I'm like, you got to give that shit back, but
Nope.
this guy sucks. So
Yeah,
boom,
no.
fuck that guy.
Yep. So that was how I paid for the retainer for the lawyer. And at that point, things did get really messy. I will say we were divorced within 4 months of me filing,
Oh wow.
which is quick.
Yeah.
That's
So
very
it was
fast.
it was messy, but I've seen way worse divorces. But that was because we didn't have a lot of assets. We had the house, and that was it. And then we had to deal with custody of my daughter.
Mhm.
So that was the extent of it. And we had a dog.
Oh.
So that was
It's funny. I'm like, daughter, I get it. House. I'm like, the dog.
yeah. And then we had a
It's
dog.
actually-
Did you get the dog?
No. So that's a funny
my
story.
It's actually
So-
funny you used to say that because I have a friend who's like, I was like, he has a wife and they have a dog. They have a dog and a couple other animals together. And he's like, I don't care. He goes like, listen, if she leaves me, like it would suck. It'd be heartbreaking, but I'm more pissed. He goes, I don't care if somebody else bangs my wife. He goes, but you don't pet my fucking dog. Like, it says that
I
all
have
the-
friends who literally are staying together right now because they have a dog.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my
not kidding.
gosh.
Like they haven't
Do
slept
you think
together in
dogs know?
months.
Do you think dogs know that they like are so loved more than human beings?
I
They
don't
don't know.
know.
They have to, right? I don't know. I
Anyway,
digress.
how did we get here?
I digress.
I mean, I can say this dog hated him.
Oh.
This was totally my dog. Looking back on it, it was totally my dog, and the dog literally hated him. The dog would always try and bite him.
Good.
And I think he like knew. I swear, animals know. They have like an instinct.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And so by us getting me filing for divorce, I will say my ex was very hurt. Very. He had a really hard time with it.
I
you
want to
know,
be like, oh, bummer.
I do
not.
truly believe that he did like truly love me, but I think it was he just
Too many demons.
yeah.
Too many
I
demons.
agree. And I, of course, felt bad because I'm not one to give up on somebody.
Hmm.
And that's just not my personality. And I wanted to fix him. And I've
Mhm.
learned through therapy, you can't fix people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen.
As much as you try to, right? Or as much as in your head you want to fix somebody.
Yeah, it's like addicting to
Yeah,
try and fix,
it
especially
is.
when you feel like you have that much invested and you're married and
Project boyfriend. That's what it's
And then you
called.
kind of go back to the whole point of, I heard you guys, one of your last podcast I was listening to was talking about like your time frame of life
Mhm.
and the and I was feeling that like, okay, this wasn't my plan. Like, wait a minute. No, I'm supposed to have another baby and they're supposed to be 2 years apart and this is how it's supposed to be.
So you were
Mm.
26 when you officially got
I was
divorced.
27 when I got divorced.
Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. So talk us through that. What was that like?
So that was rough. So I will say the divorce process, like I said, it was 4 months. We fought over the house a bit. He finally caved. I was able to buy him out. My family,
Boom.
my
Good-
my
good
family
for you.
supported me in that decision. My dad was there for me. So yes, I was able to stay in the house. However, he did not physically leave until like 3 more months
After the divorce
after
is finalized.
after I filed.
Okay.
He wanted to be a pain in my ass. That's what he wanted. That was his drive.
Yeah, to
um,
just keep getting in the way.
He wanted to keep getting in my way. He wanted to keep pushing me and aggravating me because he was hurt. So
Sounds like a great guy.
yeah, right?
Great guy, huge bush.
Yeah.
That will never get old, by the way.
No.
Okay, so
So he took the dog too, by the way. That was the other thing. I didn't want to fight over the dog. So we were fighting over so much. And when you fight in, the court system, it's very expensive.
Yeah, because it just delays it, and the more you delay
And
it,
the more you're paying your lawyer
that
for
little-
every email, oh my God.
that little ticker in the corner that's racking up your change like in a Half Baked. It's a
Yeah.
ting, 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 ting.
Yeah.
You're like, God damn it.
So I was picking my battles, and I was picking the fight for my daughter over the dog, to be honest.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
So yeah, I let him take the dog, which was unfortunate. And just the quick cap of what happened with the dog, real quick, to share with you guys. So just recently, probably about a year ago, I went to his house and to pick up my daughter, and I noticed the dog wasn't there. And I asked my daughter, I'm like, oh, what happened to the dog? And she's like, oh, he went away. He was sick. And I was like, So when I was picking her up, I asked him. I flat out asked him in his house. I'm like, so what happened to the dog? Where is he? And that fucker literally took the dog to the SPCA and never told me.
Oh my God.
And
I also do want to just point out.
I would have totally taken this dog back.
We have created such a villain of this man so far, but that I think our listeners are gonna.
I hate this guy.
This is the
I
worst
also
thing.
do
awful.
want. I also do want to point out that was the first time that she said "fuck."
Boom.
Boom. So that goes to show you. That goes to show you how pissed she was that this dude gave up that fucking dog.
Oh, damn it.
I cried.
I would
I
too.
literally cried for days because that was my dog, and you have the nerve to go bring the dog to
Well,
the
that's
SPCA.
just like the final twist of the knife,
Yeah.
I feel like. Oh,
That totally rubbed me the wrong way when I found that out.
what a
Because he
shitbag.
fought so hard for that dog, but it's all about pride, right?
Mhm.
It's all about their ego.
Mhm.
Him giving me the dog back is not something he could do.
Ugh. Ugh.
And I don't even think that even has to do with like a gender thing either. And not that you said that, but like I'm just trying to think about this because once again, I'm the only guy in the room, so I gotta defend our boys here. You know what I mean? But I don't even think that's a gender thing because I know 100%. My friends who have gone through divorce and stuff like that, women doing the same thing, just a different scenario. Just like you said, Caitlin, twisting the knife. Like this
Yeah.
is it. I'm just gonna twist this last knife just to get under his skin one last time because he was the one who filed for divorce and she was the one who was either cheating or whatever it is. So, God, the fucking dog. You can't.
Yeah. So then I ended up staying in the house, which was awesome. He ended up moving out. There was a little rough. At one point he ended up breaking into my house, and it was rough for a while. But I've seen way messier divorces, I will say. The hardest part of the divorce was the custody part. So unfortunately, when you deal with alcohol in the court system, our court system sucks, by the way. I'll be honest with you. When you deal with alcohol, there's no proof, unfortunately. When you're a functioning alcoholic and you're good at it, well, he's never had a DUI. He's never been arrested.
Ugh.
He's never been in trouble. What do you mean he's an alcoholic? I don't see that. Where's your proof? It's my word against his word.
You're like, all right, you want to hang out on Mother's Day? You know what I mean? That's what I
So
was
here I
saying.
am now. We're in the court system trying to figure out custody of at the time, my daughter was 1.5.
Did you try? What was your first approach? Did you try to get full custody?
My goal was, my lawyer flat out told me, you're not going to be given full custody because you have no proof. And that was one reason where I felt like I struggled with even going through with it because I was scared for her. Like, she's 1.5 years old and I have to give her to him by himself.
Yeah.
Like, I know what he did by himself, let alone put my 1.5-year-old in this scenario.
Yeah.
So you're like, do I just stay because
Correct.
He
What
can't
do-
be
what do
alone
I
with
do?
her? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're kind of pushed into a corner at that point
Yeah.
where you're like, damn, do I even want to divorce this?
And I think a lot of people that happens to through divorce, where they're not happy or there's something going on, whether it's substance abuse or a mental or emotional abuse or physical abuse, and because they have children, they're scared to actually divorce them because of the children. Like, what is going to happen on their time? Like, if there's no proof of it,
I've never
you
thought
have to
about
hand
that
them
before.
over.
That's
And too, like a whole other piece of this that I'm thinking about, because obviously I don't have children, right? Like, I think admitting when you're the victim of someone else, I think is a process, because when someone's doing something to you, whether it's physically, emotionally, whatever that looks like, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, you know what? This happened to me. I didn't ask for it. It's not what I wanted from this person, but it did happen to me. And then you have lawyer in your face telling you that you're making it up, you're like, well, okay, well, am I making like your sense of reality? I'm sure, like
Yeah.
aside from all of that, was I can't even imagine the havoc that must have wreaked on
It was
your
awful.
mental health.
And I kept, trying. I took pictures of things. Like, I had no idea how to provide proof of this man's addiction
Right.
and why he's not a reliable person to take care of a 1.5-year-old. So at that point, I could only do what I could do. I followed my lawyer's advice, and I will say I literally hated her at times because I hated what she had to tell me.
But she told you the truth, though.
She did, and I have learned the court system is a terrible, terrible thing. Anybody going through it, like, I literally feel for them. It's not an easy process. And with that, so he was given 40% custody
Oh wow.
through the courts, and I was given the 50. I was given primary. And with that, my dad always kept telling me, like, every dog will have its day. Something will come of it. Like, you just have to give it time. And so that was pretty much what I did at that point. I tried my hardest, and it was really hard. There was a couple occasions where I went to hand her over to him, and I didn't because he smelled like alcohol.
Mm.
So, and that's hard because I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for it.
Right.
But
If you give the
if he goes to court and says that I didn't hand her over on one of his custodial days, I could get in trouble because, and what would happen? It happened twice. I called the cops, and said, I'm at an exchange with my daughter. I'm supposed to hand her over to her dad, and I'm not handing her over. He smells of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So you did the right thing, at least.
Yeah, and sure enough, the 2 times that I did that, he ran off driving home.
Ugh.
And called me saying, bring her to me. Where is she? Like, it was awful.
So you covered your ass though on that.
I did. I called the
Good.
cops too. I had to. I would have been in trouble in court.
Right.
Yeah. And that's called CYA paperwork. Like you said, cover your ass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had to call the cops to report it. He was such a pain in my ass, I will say, through the whole thing. Thank God my daughter was so young that she doesn't remember any of it because it was awful. And then I will say then what happened then, as every dog will have their day. My dad always said, what was it? A couple years ago, I want to say my daughter was now 2.5. So he had about almost a year of the 40% custody before something happened. So I gave her to him in the morning. It was an 8 o'clock exchange. I was going to work. We met at a Wawa. And sure enough, I get to work and I get a phone call from somebody from his phone. So this morning, he called me many, many times, and I just ignored him. He was literally like, I don't want to say stalking me, but harassing me, kind of harassing me, yes. And that was normal. He was that's who he was. And so I get a phone call from his phone, and I don't answer it. I let it go to voicemail because I'm like, I'm ignoring him at this point. And it's the police. And yep.
I gotta take a deep breath.
So it was the police. They left me a voicemail. I actually still have this voicemail on my phone. And literally, my daughter, he got into a car accident. He ran into the side of a building with my 2.5-year-old daughter in the car.
Oh, I'm crying again. Oh my God.
And the dog was in the car.
And the dog.
The damn dog. So
Was everyone
he
okay?
drunk?
Was your daughter
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
Was the dog okay?
Yes.
I
So
don't give a fuck if
everybody
he was okay. I'm just worried about them at this point.
Yes. I was literally sat down in my office. It was like literally I want to say it was like around 8:20 in the morning a.m. And I got the phone call and like literally did not know how to react. I spoke to the police, and at the time they didn't tell me it was a car accident. They just said that he was pulled over. I don't think they wanted to make me panic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he was just pulled over.
Especially if everybody was fine. You know what I
correct.
mean? If they pulled
He's like-
everyone out, everyone looks good,
Yeah. He's like, I want you to know your daughter is perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Thank God.
I'm like, okay. That was the first thing he said to me. And at that moment, he's like, your ex-husband, he was pulled over. This is what daddy was pulled over for a DUI.
And you're like, finally, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so he was pulled over for a DUI, and he was a .308 at 8:30 in the morning.
Point.
.308.
Don't you like die at 0.35?
No.
No.
You can,
Oh, no. This gets worse.
You can die at like point. You have to think.
you can die.
0.2 is 20% of your blood
Correct.
is alcohol. .308 means almost 31% of your blood is booze.
And so you didn't, but when you had the exchange, you didn't know.
Yeah. So our
Ugh.
exchanges turned into me putting her in the car and us not speaking
That's right.
because he was getting aggravated with me and why are you questioning me? And he doesn't want me to smell his alcohol, so he wouldn't come anywhere near me.
Ugh.
And so, of course, I then felt guilty. I handed my daughter to him, but I didn't have conversation with him. I literally just put her in the car seat, and I always put her in to make sure she was in properly because I was literally always afraid. It was always on my mind that this would happen. So he drove all the way down 309 at a .308 with my daughter in the car. And so I panic, of course. I have a coworker at work. He sees me. He's like, I'm like, at this point, my brain was not even processing, and I'm panicking. And he's like, whoa, what's going on? And I couldn't even talk. So he took me. He's like, I'll drive you. You're not driving anywhere. And I said, well, you have to drive my car. I have the car seat. I have to pick up my daughter. And so he drove my car, and we went to get her. And it was, I'm not going to say where it was, but it was at a location. And when I got there is when I saw that his car he hit the side of the building of a building.
Oh, and you didn't even know it.
I didn't know that. The police didn't tell me that. The police told me he was pulled over. And I think it was because they didn't want me to panic.
Right.
So I get there, and then, of course, the owner of the building is holding my daughter, and she's fine, thank God. She took the dog. It was a weird scenario. But my daughter was fine. That's all I cared about. And he was arrested.
As he should be.
Yeah. So at that point, I had to call my lawyer and go through the whole thing, and I was given full custody of my daughter. He, of course, bailed himself out of jail. And it was a battle from there. He was in and out of court several times. The whole story of it is, so I had full custody of my daughter for, I want to say almost 2 years. It was a step-up program. He just got his custody back most recently in January.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
I'm surprised they still even.
It was a struggle. I mean, but I will say the courts are very much so in favor of both parents.
Which is odd because you hear that it's more for the mom.
They're not. It's not in Montgomery County. Like, it depends where you live.
Okay.
And I will say, I have, from sharing my story and, writing things on Facebook, I've had so many women reach out to me who are in, struggling and in situations like mine. So many, probably like 5 or 6 women.
Oh, wow.
Who I've connected with and shared my story and helped them and supported them. So it's that's where I like to share my story. I like to be a support to somebody because, like I said, it's something you hide.
Yeah.
You don't talk about it. So anyway, so he was then basically just a drunk, and it became having to do supervised visits with my daughter. I would have to bring her to him for 2-hour increments on the weekend. Like, he was still fighting to see her. He was brutal. He's such a manipulator. He's such a control freak as well. I always, and still to today, I feel like he tries to control my daughter's life. That's just his personality. And you can't fix that, unfortunately. And, one day my daughter will figure it out for herself. Right now
she's got you raising her, so she's going to grow up to be a strong, independent woman. So.
So basically that happened. And then, I, of course, went to all of his court hearings. I will be honest. He was going to court for child endangerment and the DUI. And I will say the first time we went to court, I showed up with my aunt. She was there to support me. He was the last person to talk to the judge. And this is regarding the DUI. And he got up there, and within 2 minutes, he had a seizure. Yeah.
What?
Yep. I've never watched somebody have a seizure. So to me, I was like,
what's happening?
Yeah, it was awful.
Was it alcohol induced?
Yeah. He had a seizure through withdrawal.
Oh my God.
And he literally during the thing, when he went to a seizure, he literally like whacked his head on a table behind him.
Oh my gosh.
My
sister's epileptic, so I'm familiar with seizures, and they're awful.
Yeah,
I can't
it was
imagine.
awful.
Wow.
I did not expect that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought, I'm like, oh, here we are. We're going to hear what's happening. And sure enough, he went into a seizure later to find out it was alcohol withdrawal. But of course, initially, he told me that, oh, it was just a freak thing. That's what he told me. And I knew. I'm not stupid. I'm like, okay, say what you want to say.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, he had another court date, which we went to as well. And this time, he showed up drunker than drunk. So the second time he goes in front of the judge, same judge, and this judge let me talk. This judge was awesome, I will say, and they found out, they were making him do time in jail due to his child endangerment charge. And with that, they arrested him on the spot, and the arresting officer smelled alcohol in him. And so he was given a test, and at this time I had already left the courtroom, and they called me. And they're like, you're not going to believe it. They're like, we just, we were arresting him, but we found out that he's drunk. And I'm like, oh, that's not surprising. Not shocking to me at all, because the last time he was in the courtroom, he had a seizure. So now he knows, well, if I'm going to get through this, I have to be drunk, because that's how he functioned.
Oh,
he functioned on alcohol, and he was a 0.5.
What?
I'm not kidding.
How is that even possible?
Correct. That's like 50% of your body being alcohol. They could not believe it.
Yeah, how
They said we don't even know
he
how
should be dead.
we don't even know how he's standing here right now. That's how much his tolerance was built up from drinking for years. And I don't know how much drinking he was doing when I was not with him. For all I know, he woke up and all he did was drink alcohol. I have no idea. And he was with my daughter.
Oh my God.
Every time that I think that we have an episode where Bobby and I are both equally shocked, like the shock value will never, the limit does not exist, but this is it so far. Like, wow.
50%,
Yeah.
dude.
0.5. And I'm like, wait, do you mean like 0.05? They're like, no, 0.5. I'm like, are you sure? Like, that
Because
doesn't sound right to me.
He should be dead.
Yeah.
And they're like,
And that's what I said. I'm like, shouldn't he be dead? And the lady's like, yeah, you would think, right?
Holy shit.
So
Wow.
he had to go. He was arrested and he was put in jail with no bail. The judge said, the judge was pissed at him at this point, pissed, and said, you're not getting bail. You're throwing in jail 60 days. So sure enough, at this point, I want to say it was like June, July. It was the summertime. So he was thrown into jail. I had full custody of my daughter, no child support. I had to do it by myself for a long time. So he was in jail for 60 days, 2 months. To me, I kept thinking about, and I asked because I still cared. When they arrested him, I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen? How does somebody go from a 0.5 to sober? Like, he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I said, of course, I'm still worrying. That's just my nature.
Well, and it's your daughter's father.
Yeah, correct.
So,
of course, I'm still worrying about him. And, they said to me that they watch them. They put them into like I don't know what it's called, a detox.
Yeah, they'll have like a nurse or something.
Because they could get in trouble if he died on their watch.
Absolutely.
So at that point, that was fine. I cannot imagine what he went through going from a 0.5 to a 0. I couldn't even imagine.
That had to hurt. That's all
Really
I gotta
bad.
say.
well,
That had to hurt.
they say alcohol withdrawal is the worst withdrawal.
Absolutely, that's what I
of
heard.
Any drug,
Yep.
even worse than heroin. They say alcohol withdrawals.
Yeah.
I actually have a good friend who went through detox. He was in ICU for 11 days unconscious after he decided to kick it because he saw an alligator in his front yard. He's like, feel like something's wrong. And then he slipped into a coma for 11 days.
Wow.
So it can be rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to preface, there's no alligators in Pennsylvania.
No.
No. So
No.
Because if you said that and you're like, we were in Florida, you're like, okay, makes sense.
No, and it was December. Also,
Yeah.
So.
So like the alligator would be dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Insane.
now you're here. You're divorced. What's it like now? How do you feel about your life at this moment after you've gone through this whirlwind?
So basically, at this point, I'm personally am in a much better place. I
You've
will
been divorced
say
for how long now?
it's almost 4 years.
Okay.
That is a life I would never want to relive. I don't wish that upon anybody, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
So after he was, everything was done, I will say now today, he's gone to rehab a few times. I think 3 times total he's been to rehab, and he is finally sober. He's been sober. It'll be 2 years in July. From what I know, he's sober.
Great.
Anyway.
Good.
Right now he does do hair testing every 3 months. He does it right now.
I
Just
thought you were going to
assure-
say heroin. I'm like, what?
No, like
What?
like the hair test where they test you for alcohol.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He does that right now every 3 months just to assure me that he's sober while he's with my daughter.
That's good.
Because as of January, he does have his full 40% custody back. He's in a much better place now.
Good.
And truthfully, some people will be like, "Oh, or don't you wish you're with him?" No, I don't. I'm glad he's sober for my daughter, but that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm one, I need to commend you. I mean, you're sitting here, one, telling your whole story, but two, I mean, geez, you're freaking confident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you own it, girl. Like good for you. Like,
Yeah. So
I
that's a
try.
piece that I kind of want to get into
Mhm.
also is like I actually going into this had no idea the extent of the addiction and how big of a role that played in your
Mhm.
divorce. So when you're going through this, you're 27, getting a divorce, and like I said, like I noticed it on Facebook because I remembered seeing pictures. I think it was of your bachelorette party and when you were younger, and then I suddenly just don't see the photos anymore. No more husband, no more. I'm searching for wedding pictures. They're not there. I'm like, and I'm not really a big Facebook stalker, but for some reason I was just like, I swore she was married. Maybe not. And then I'm seeing this. So like, what was that like for you? Were you public about it? Were you private about it? Like, how did that go?
I think initially I was private about it, but then I slowly became more not private about it. I think I posted a couple of things. I couldn't even remember what I posted. I got into a much better place and I was proud of where I was. I had a home. I was a single mom. I was doing it by myself. I was getting confidence in myself. I left an extremely toxic relationship. I felt like you get to a better place. And I went to therapy as well. That helped me. I will say initially I was seeing a therapist once every couple weeks or so. She helped me through a lot of things. And then also initially when I was separated from when I was divorced, I should say, I had another man in my life who really was supportive of me. I won't go into too much detail about him, but he was kind of always there for me for certain things. He was very Christian, and I will say he kind of. I'm not a. I'm a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. I'm not very religious, but he was very Christian, and he kind of got me a little bit closer to God in certain ways, and that kind of helped.
mhm. You found some what I mean, I don't want to say peace, but like
It
Yeah,
helps. It helps you
yeah.
like
heal.
foundation,
Yeah,
some foundation. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm not a big religious person either.
yeah.
Episode 6, I believe.
Always
But
plug.
yeah, always plug. But I'm not either. But if you needed to find, like I said, a foundation or a good set of morals, then whatever, high tides raise all
Right.
ships. Good for you.
So how did you get past? I guess that was the answer. The shame that kind of because I can say like from my own experience, when I got out of my relationships last year, I was so embarrassed because it was
Mhm.
not an off relationship, and I was getting out of just a boyfriend, and I was humiliated by saying, "Okay, guys,
Yeah.
6 years later, 4 tries, I'm really done this time." Like, and I was humiliated. Like, what was that part of it like for you?
That was hard. And I'm definitely a people pleaser. So that's just my personality also. That was really hard for me. I think the shame with my family, the shame with, my parents are still married. So it's also thinking, oh my God, like you have this example in front of you and you're failing.
Mm.
So of course you feel like a failure, of course. But I worked through it and I will say now it's just so funny how the tables turn. I felt like his life went crashing down and my life completely like
Went up.
went up.
Do
Um,
you feel like a failure?
Not anymore.
Okay.
At the time I did, not anymore.
Because you're not.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
No,
not anymore.
you're not at all. You're
Uh,
probably the polar opposite of it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? There's
yeah. So what was that like after you guys divorced and you started dating again? Like, how did you express that to people on dates? Like, hi, I'm 27 and I'm divorced.
Initially, it was very hard. I hated it. It was embarrassing. It was something I didn't really talk about. And I think what's even more embarrassing and hard is being a single parent too and trying to date. That sucks.
I was gonna say most girls right now who are like single moms or whatever, it's they might find it embarrassing just being a single mom, let
Correct.
alone single mom. And I just went through this fucking shit show. You know what I mean? As well, that's
Yeah.
adding another piece to the puzzle of what's already a complicated puzzle of which is called dating in your 30s.
Yeah, just dating in general sucks. Like,
It
Yeah,
does.
dating
yeah,
with all that to unpack also. Wow. God bless.
And I feel like you get to a point like I feel like now in my life I'm so aware of what I want. And I think that's just growing up and figuring out and going through your life experiences. And I can truly say, I don't know about you guys, I truly believe everybody who comes into your life is there for a reason. Um, Whether they're helping you grow or they're teaching you a lesson, there's always some kind of aspect to it. That's how I
yeah.
felt
Like, how much of
anyway.
a better person are you now, it's actually funny because speaking of, my buddy Scott from earlier, I sent him a text message. He didn't get it, obviously, because he's hurt. But I said something. I'm like, yeah, although these like unfortunate circumstances happen, but like, isn't this what life's about? Like, how much better of a person you are, how much stronger you are, how much more willpower you have. Like you're coming out of this on the other side. It's gonna be tough, but you're coming out of this like 10 times the person that you could have ever imagined to be. Imagine if you just stayed into this was your lily white, white picket fence relationship. Do you ever think that you would have became as strong of a woman as you are now? I'm going to say probably
Mhm.
not, because you never faced that adversity. You never faced those challenges. Now you're like, "Pff, come on, world, bring it. I've done
Mhm.
it." You know what I mean? Like, this is nothing. The things that you were you struggled with so much before, are now minuscule. You know what I mean? And you're like, this is easy. You know what I mean? This game called life, I'm gonna crush it because of everything that I've done. Now I'm here.
Yes, totally agree with you. And I also feel like, I could be so wrong. I feel like if I never left him, I don't know if he'd be sober.
I don't think he would.
Like, I
No.
truly feel
Just from
like
hearing this,
I
I don't
was
think so.
such an enabler and didn't realize it. When you have somebody in your corner, I don't think I was intentionally an enabler, but I feel like
You were
he
you were indirectly an enabler because he knew how to manipulate you.
correct.
Yes, and since you just didn't know, you were enabling. You had no clue because he knew your pressure points. He
Yep.
knew I could tell her this, but do this, or I could do this and do that instead. So I hope you don't hold that over your head at
No, I
all.
don't. I 100% agree with what you said.
Yeah.
He's just very good at it. He's
They
such a
always are.
manipulator.
They really are. So I have a question. If there's one thing you could tell yourself while you were in the thick of it, like trying to decide, do I stay? Do I go? Two parts of this, like being young and being like, I just got married. I just had a kid. Should I stick it out? And then also being with an addict. Like if you had one thing now you could tell yourself back then, what would it be?
So I would definitely tell myself, got to choose yourself. Going back on it, I would still have chosen the same route that I did, which is hard because I felt like I always look at life as you're standing on a crossroad and which way you're going to go. That's
Mhm.
always how I view it. And taking a different road from where I was at was so hard for me. That's not what I wanted. That's not what you envisioned for your life. So with that, that was hard, but I would never choose differently, and I would never tell somebody else to choose differently. Go with your gut. It truly does make you a better person. And I've always said to myself, I always chose him. He never chose me.
Oh, I feel that so deeply. Oh, oh.
And you got to choose yourself
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, he was not in my corner.
Right.
Me-
If they're not choosing you and you're not choosing you, no one's choosing you.
Right. And to me, love is 100% a choice.
Yeah.
I don't know, anybody looks at it, you can be married for 50 years. You're choosing that person every day. And I felt like he never chose me.
That hit hard. Whew. Oh, all right. So one more piece of it too is looking back, having gotten married at 23. Do you have any advice for people who are considering it at that age?
My advice, I truly believe you should not get married before the age of 25. I mean, granted, everybody has their own story. I just feel like when I hit 25, 26, after I had my daughter, I grew up. Man, life changes. You see things differently. And now even at 30, I feel like I'm like way like,
More woke.
oh my
I
God.
hate to say that, but it's true. You know
It's
what I
so
mean?
true. I feel like I hit 30 and I'm okay with I'm independent. I'm okay with it. Like I'm good where I'm at. I'm so ready to move on with the next chapter of my life. Like literally.
And you know yourself a lot more. You know the world a little bit better. We definitely don't claim to have it all figured out by any means, but I think just like we said, like 23 versus now, whew.
Yeah, difference.
it's crazy. And I feel like looking back, man, I was 23. I should have been partying. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? I just was never that person, but I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah,
you know?
that's
But
awesome. I think I can't say anything. I'm like in shock right now because like I said, I haven't seen you in shit. It's probably been
a long time.
At least a
Probably-
decade for
I
me.
would say, yeah, probably almost 12 years or something like that. And I'm enamored at how powerful you are. That's awesome. Like the fact that you had to go through this, it's horrific. I don't wish it upon anybody. But wow, holy! Would you have if you said Brittany is going to be this person at 30, I'd be like, no way she's going to go through that shit. No way that's going to happen to her. Freaking Brit. Are you kidding
When
me?
you got married, I was like, oh, I see that for her. Like she's a good girl. She's family oriented. Like I see her being married.
Makes sense. Little do we know the demons that you've had to battle. I mean, so, on this note, one, thank you. One,
Yeah,
for coming
thank
on,
you.
sharing this, and not only sharing it, but sharing it with so much confidence. I mean, that is like, words can't describe it. I think that is awesome. And thank you. Thank you again.
You're welcome. And I think, to end this off also, something I've always told myself every day, people who are struggling, like, you are so worth it. Like, you're a woman. Like, you have to remind yourself. I literally feel like if I could write it on my mirror every day, I would.
Right.
Like, you're so worthy of being loved. And,
again, with the chills.
and I just, it's so true. And looking back, I'm like, I've come so far and I'm just so ready for the next chapter of my life.
That's awesome. And I always say, and I think it's people get taken back by this all the time when I say it, but when someone ends an engagement or gets divorced before the age of 30, most people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But I'm like, wow, good for you. Because I feel like it does carry a lot of shame.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, okay, well, are you making the right decision? Like but I'm like, if you have the mental stability to say this is not working. And even though I just put, I spent all this money on a wedding and I had bridesmaids, I had a bachelorette party, I had this, like, and you're able to say, however, this is not for me. Like, I think that deserves so much celebration and praise. Like, although it's not a great situation, the fact that you're able to see this early on, like, this is not for me. And then you're able to do something about it, I think is huge. So good for you.
So on that note, Brittany, are you okay with people who are struggling with their relationship or struggling through a divorce or anything like that reaching out to you? If that is the case, if you're cool with, feel free to plug any social media that you would want people to reach out to you on.
Yeah, sure. So you can reach out to me on my Instagram. It's at BrittannYYYS.
And we'll tag her on the
Yeah.
post.
Please do.
We'll tag her.
Complicated.
It's like all that stuff. We'll tag her. So it's a lot easier. It's a lot of letters and stuff.
Yes.
Multiple letters.
You'd be surprised how many people come on and we ask them to plug their social and they're like, wait, I don't know what it is.
God damn it. God damn it. I forgot about that. On that note, everyone, you already know what to do. Feel free to follow the Irregular Podcast page at Irregular Podcast. Feel free to follow my Instagram as well at YoBob, EYOOO_BOB.
And follow me on Instagram as well at Katie_ANI. It's KAITY_ANI. Britt, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
No, it was killer. On that note, we will talk to you next Thursday. Love you.
Love you guys.